All right, so in today's video, we're gonna kind of switch gears and do something a little different. Different to you guys, but not different to us, very familiar to us. And so Donna, let's share your story that we were talking about last night.
So my daughter, who is 20 years old, she comes to me and she says, you know what? I think I have ADHD. And I'm like, okay. And why would you say that? She goes, because I can relate to quite a few of the characteristics that's on the list. So I'm like, tell me about it. Well, you know, I have struggles with focusing. I have struggles with completing tasks. It's very difficult for me to be consistent. So I really think I have ADHD. So I thought that to be an interesting observation on her behalf. And that led me to think, and I even did ask her, I'm going like, okay, I agree that these are some areas that you find challenging, but is it really ADHD? And in this video, we are going to ask the question, yes, we have challenges, and yes, we can identify with a lot of these characteristics, you know, that's falls under ADHD, autism, but do we need to have a diagnosis in order to work and overcome these challenges? In this video, we are going to explore this topic.
But you guys know the drill. Before we get started, click the subscribe button and hit that bell so that you are notified anytime we release a new video on how to handle your child's challenging behaviors. And don't forget to like this video. Okay, so when you were saying that, it was making me think of a lot of clients that I work with. And, you know, I have a lot of adults that come to me and they don't have concussions, they don't have a brain injury, no diagnoses, but yet they're struggling with everything that you just listed pretty much. And what I have found in working with them and what I say is that there's a possibility that when they were a child or when they were younger, there was something going on in the brain or there was a gap in their development. And that led them to these struggles as a kid. But they had to learn to compensate. They had to learn to do things and overcome some of those struggles. And now that they've reached a point where it's kind of plateaued, the brain can only compensate for so long.
But we know that neuroplasticity exists,
right?
And the brain can change.
Exactly.
So basically, we just need to move them to the next level of using their brain.
Yeah. So we move them on to a program and give them the right strategies, and then we can see them overcome these struggles.
Nice.
Okay, so let's go back to your daughter and what she was saying. Now we're seeing a lot of adults that are asking the same questions, like, is there something wrong with me? What is...
Looks like I feel like I might be autistic.
Yeah.
Or maybe I have ADHD.
Yeah.
I think it's a question that a lot of people are asking when they face some challenges with learning, with self-regulation, with emotional, you know, mental health situations. I feel like we just want answers. And it's just like when you have a pain. If you have a pain, you want the doctor to give you a diagnosis so you know something's wrong. So I think it's very similar to that. But the real question is...
is it going to help?
Right. That's the question. How does that change your struggles? How does that change anything in your situation?
Right. Okay, so we did some research because we really wanted to dive into this topic and see what, you know, what adults were saying, what were they thinking, and what were they going to get out of getting the diagnosis.
Yeah. And we found in terms of our research, people are relieved when they find out that, oh, okay, I have autism, or I have ADHD, or there's some kind of label that is attached to my experiences. So they get a sense of relief.
Right. But on the other hand, they were also getting a sense of loss.
And grief.
And grief, because now they feel, or they question, well, if my parents had known this, my life could be like this, I wouldn't struggle this, and there's a lot of comparing back and forth.
Right. So the next thing we found on the list of, you know, things on our research was that you can access resources.
Right.
But that is questionable.
Because if you really think about it, you know, let's say kids with autism, they have a hard time finding all the resources, and there's a cutoff date for certain ages, and then there's funding, there's a cutoff date. Even that's hard itself, let alone adults with autism. But at the end of the day, let's look at, you know, some of the therapies that they're recommending. Cognitive behavioral therapies, you know, self-regulation programs, neurodevelopmental movement programs. You don't need diagnoses for those.
You can access those all on your own. And there's no real funding for these programs either. No. I mean, I think in Ontario, the most you're going to get is a disability or some tax credits, but in reality, it's not really any type of funding. So when it comes to resources, I think if you're thinking about funding or anything that's free, I think that's limited. However, specific to what your needs are in terms of a program like neurodevelopmental movement or CBT, you don't need a diagnosis to access those resources. Right.
So the next one we found in our research was they were going to find people that they could relate to. That one was interesting, and we were really thinking about that and analyzing that. And yes, they may find people that they can relate with, but it depends on where everybody is on the spectrum, or where everybody is in their life, or what everybody is doing when it comes to how they're handling their struggles. Right.
Because we are all adults now.
Right.
So
that one is a bit interesting too, because let's look at their own circle. Now they may have a new circle and have to learn how to relate to that new circle, but what's going to happen to the other circle of friends and family?
Now when your friends find out that you just got a diagnosis and you are autistic or you have some label, that might put a little bit of stress on the relationship, because they might be so careful now around you, because they might be worried about how they're going to offend you, or what do I say, how do I say things, and that could be quite stressful on your circle that you're in and the relationships you have with your peers. So yes, you might find people that you can now relate to, but what about the people that's already in your life? How are they going to relate to you? Is it going to be a hindrance? So these are just some thought processes that we have. We're not saying yay or nay. We're just asking the question. Really, does the diagnosis equate what we're getting in return? Right? And that's kind of what we want to get you to think about in terms of the diagnosis, because I think now we're all struggling. We're all struggling with something or the other, and we just want answers. We want answers, but in the whole scope of things, what is the answer going to do for us?
What is it going to give us?
Right. Is it going to help us, or is it going to hinder us? And that's a big question we need to answer.
So like Donna said, we're not saying yay, we're not saying nay. We just want to know, do you guys think it's necessary to get a diagnosis as an adult? Let us know in the comments.
So as we go along our life journey, we will face all kinds of struggles, right? We just talked about them, self-regulation, we might have anger, we might have difficulty focusing, memory, right? There's so many struggles that we're faced with. Teenagers, young adults, grown people, we have these struggles. And, we come across these quotes that are very inspirational.
I love quotes. They make you feel so good.
They make you feel so good, but they only can go so far.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. And the one that, you know, we came across was the diagnosis does not determine your destiny. And that sounds really good. And it makes you feel good.
Makes you feel empowered. Like, I can do this.
But when you are the one that has that diagnosis and you're all by yourself, and it's just you and you, that to the core of your being, you know what you're feeling. You know that people are looking at you and they think that you're different. You feel that you are limited in what you can do, and you feel less than.
Yeah, I feel like it would kind of stick with you, like it always stays in the back of your mind.
Right. As much as
at the end of the day, it does.
Exactly. Exactly. And you are a parent of a child with special need.
Yes. Yep.
So
heard that all the time. Heard lots of quotes. But you know what? It doesn't. Deep down inside, it's still not enough. You still feel it.
Right. It's not enough. I like that. That's what it is. It's not enough. But you know what is enough? Is if you were to take your challenges, one challenge at a time, one day at a time, and one strategy at a time, and you get the right strategies, and you put the work in, that is what's going to be enough, because that's going to change a situation, because we know what, I mean, when we look at the brain.
Yeah, science tells us that the brain can change. Neuroplasticity exists, and it does not matter if you're 4 months old, 4 years old, 64 years old. That brain can change if you know the right stimuli to change the brain.
Exactly. So you don't need a diagnosis to access resources. You don't need a diagnosis to make changes in your life. You know what? Sometimes getting a diagnosis is going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to cost you a lot of time. It's going to bring heartache. When all you need to do is take your challenges, find the resources, put a plan in place, execute the plan, and voila, you can become an overcomer. So no diagnosis, you can overcome. Try it.
All right. So if we've inspired you, and we've given you the feeling like, hey, yeah, you're right, I can overcome my struggles, but you still need some support, please connect with us. We would love to help you at admin@parentingbeyondbehaviors.com. All right, so be sure to check out our next video where I'm actually going to talk about my personal journey, my story as a special needs mom, and pretty much what that was like for me.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.